Spring is in the air, and you know what that means. Things are starting to heat up. And they certainly are in the galaxy far, far away as well, as we are like 65 days away from not only Star Wars Celebration, but the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. We are pumped here, and we are going to talk about a lot of this today. So welcome everybody to TRB, the Resistance broadcast. I'm John. Thank you so much for joining us on this Monday. It is, well, yesterday I guess was officially the first day of spring. Today is March 21st. Some say the 21st, some say the 20th. It's like tomato, but either way, spring is here, and it's always a good thing because it's just positive vibes, and that's what's going on here. We have a lot of cool stories to talk about. With me, as always, is James and Lacey. James, I gotta ask, because the picture looked good. It doesn't mean it was good. You posted to your social medias that your wife made you a Fugazi mixed sprinkle or whatever.
I'm still drinking it.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
That has been sitting around for many a day.
No, he just got it.
I'm just joking.
It's like 4 days old, but
still
So
good.
listen.
Still fresh.
It's called a shamrock shake. I called it a mixed sprinkle. It's not a mixed
I didn't
sprinkle.
know what I thought you were
Neither
going,
did I.
I thought you were like nicknaming people. You know,
Is anything called a mixed sprinkle? Did I just make that up?
Not that I know of.
They just put
definitely
Mick
not,
in front of
'cause that'd be a
everything.
McDonald's thing.
Is the apple pie at McDonald's called a McPie?
No.
No, it's just called the apple pie.
Is that so? That's the only item that's I think just called a no Mick in front of it. It's just the apple
Fish
pie.
fillet.
No, yeah, Big Mac.
McFillet.
It's not
McFish,
a McFillet.
McFish. McFish.
It's not a McFish. It's just a fish fillet.
Yeah.
Filet-o-fish or something like that.
Yeah, I think I mean, French fries, they're not called McFries. Like, I mean, there's a million things here.
John, get it together. Jeez.
McHot Fudge Sundae.
True.
McDouble quarter pounder.
We're gonna get to the news in a minute, but just so you know, later after the Patreon pod race, we're gonna pick Lacey's brain about. She got to have a little special first look at the Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga video game. So we're going to talk to Lacey about that. It may actually be the thing that gets me back into the fight.
I think it will. It is awesome. And I'm not just saying that because I got to see it before other people.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Well,
we'll talk about it later, but just some of the images I saw, like that photo of R2 with the sunset and stuff, like I'm like, this is a Lego game? It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But
not to pull away from that Lego game, but I did recently up if people know my Apple subscription thing, so I now have Apple Arcade, so I can finally play the like Lego Star Wars game that's exclusive to Apple Arcade.
Oh yeah, the battle game.
Yeah, and I had never played it before, but I would have done it sooner if I would have known that it's basically a Lego version of Force Arena, which was a game that I enjoyed playing, and they canceled it. Like they said, we're shutting down the servers, you can't play it anymore, and I was like, I'm still playing it. Oh man, it's gone. Can't play it anymore.
Wow.
But that was great because, you know, they had that was where we saw like realistic versions of Ezra and Sabine and stuff, like long before like we saw anything else, you know. No, I've been playing it now and I'm getting into it. So
Nice.
A lot of fun there too.
Nice, man. All right. So, Lacey, what's going on with you?
Just chilling, ready to talk some Star Wars.
All right. Then let's do it,
I always
James.
say that. That's always my answer. Just chilling.
Yeah.
I never have a new answer.
All right.
I bet someone could go back and edit just me being like, just chilling, just chilling, just chilling.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Next time I'll just say, and Lacey's probably just chilling. James, let's do the news.
All right.
It's the Resistance.
This week we got a story that is kind of a Star Wars Star Wars Newsnet exclusive. Sorry, I couldn't get that out.
Not chilling.
Yeah, not chilling. Not at all.
He's tripping.
No. So again, with these exclusive stories, it's kind of one of those things. if you want to go in completely blind, this isn't like a crazy thing. It's a location that you know of, and we can confirm that it's going to happen in the show. But it's one of those things, maybe skip ahead a little bit and try to see where we are down the timeline if we've skipped past the story. But we're going to get started on this one, and it is that Anchorhead from the original 1977 Star Wars, which was mentioned there first, is finally making its on-screen appearance in the Kenobi series. And we've kind of already seen it because it's in the trailer. And our confirmation, as I'm going to shoot to John here first on this story, is saying that's where they're going. That's the transport place. That's where he's gonna get off planet or whatever, that's where it's going. So I'm gonna go to John on this one first because we need to talk about Anchorhead. What's up?
Yeah, so first the thing to process here is that I don't think that the story of the Obi-Wan Kenobi series is going to be necessarily that complex. I don't think Star Wars storytelling is that complex anyway. But knowing that this is a prequel and we know the fates of these characters, like all of them, Beru, Owen, Obi-Wan, Vader.
Oh my God. I just remembered that they get barbecued just now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's a big part of this story. So if you think about it, like how sort of the chain of events happen. So knowing that, like going into this, like it's something like this, like, it's to me not a spoiler. Really, it's like, oh, they're going to Anchorhead. Cool. It's like to me it was like, because I don't like story spoilers. I don't like covering story spoilers. I don't write those articles on the site. I like things that are going to get me more excited for the show. And hearing that Anchorhead, we're going to finally see Anchorhead, got me really excited. So so in the trailer, or the teaser, whatever they're calling it, when you see Obi-Wan on that sort of transport and he's sort of looking straight ahead like he doesn't want to talk to anybody, and he's with like these commoners, and you see out in the distance that sort of like tower and something, a city in the distance, that is Anchorhead. And Anchorhead for a while has been sort of left open as to what it really is. And if you looked on like Wikipedia, shout out to Wikipedia, everyone goes to Wikipedia. It's pretty barren in terms of what Anchorhead actually is. It's, a location on Tatooine, and the surmising that it's sort of for transportation and that sort of stuff. And like Luke says to Obi-Wan, like, I can take you to Anchorhead, you can get a transport to Mos Eisley. But they've built it up into a bigger thing of late. And the start of that was Book of Boba Fett, where in the first chapter, he's digging with that Rodian, and he's like, if you'd kept your mouth shut, we could have gotten to Anchorhead and gotten off this planet. So it's a bigger transportation hub. It's more of like an international airport. And I think fans are going to find out that they're going to, like, if people are familiar with like LAX, one of the more popular airports in the United States, you're going to probably see things that are like, oh, that looks like LAX a little bit, or that tower looks like this. And, it has like this central tower, like an air traffic control tower type of thing. But the bottom line is, I think this is where Obi-Wan's going to go to leave Tatooine. I think it's a smart choice. One, because 45 years later, you're finally getting Anchorhead on screen in Star Wars, which is very cool, because Anchorhead is sort of important in a sense that was Luke's out for his engagement with Obi-Wan. He's like, listen, I'll take you as far as Anchorhead, and that's it. But then Owen and Beru get killed, and it changed everything. He never takes them to Anchorhead, and they wind up going to Mos Eisley and joining the rebellion. So it's like the blue pill and the red pill. If they were able to get to Anchorhead, maybe something else goes on. He wound up going to Mos Eisley because of what happened with Beru and Owen. And I like this better because him going to Anchorhead to leave is fresher. And, everyone makes the joke about, oh, we're on Tatooine again. Here we are. And yeah, we are. But if he had gone to Mos Eisley and did the docking bay thing and all that, and the cantina people would have been
sure.
like, oh man, he's leaving from there again. So I think Anchorhead being that is important in that sense because it adds a freshness to it. So nothing that's twisting up the plot here. The trailer showed us that he's leaving Tatooine. So I think this is just a nice little nod to the original Star Wars, and who better to be the one to show us Anchorhead than Obi-Wan, who was trying to get there via Luke in the first movie. So it's a nice little sort of bookend, sort of tie the knot a little bit, tie the bow on the ribbon, whatever that phrase is. And yeah, so that's pretty much the gist of it.
Tie the bow around the ribbon.
Tie the bow around the ribbon.
That's the one.
Chomping at the bite.
I think what you meant to say was dead body.
Dead body. Yeah. So yeah, that's the gist of it. I don't know that there's too much more to it, but it's just a cool little story. But yeah, you can see it in the distance in that trailer when he's on that transportation.
I was trying to do a little logistical storytelling or math in my head. I was like, so if he says Luke would take him as far as Anchorhead, and then there Obi-Wan would take a transport to Mos Eisley, but then after his aunt and uncle die, they just go straight to Mos Eisley. Wouldn't that mean they also went through Anchorhead? Like maybe just
they
he
might
just
have
went
gone
with
by
him?
it because he goes to that cliff overlooking Mos Eisley, which makes it seem like it's really far away.
Yeah. So I was like, all right, well, if my friend was like, hey, let's go to Chicago or something, I'd be like, well, I can take you as far as the train station here. And there, since you don't have a car, you'd be able to make your way to Chicago or something. And then I was like, but if I had nothing holding me back, then maybe we would just drive the like 5 hours to Chicago. You know what I mean? I was like trying to put it all together.
I think the Anchorhead thing with Obi-Wan, from his perspective in A New Hope, was, we're not going to Anchorhead. I'm just going to let this kid say he thinks he's taking me to Anchorhead, so we stay together, and I still can convince him.
You're not going to Anchorhead.
I'm just saying, how do you get to Mos Eisley without going through Anchorhead? And I guess you just go the whole way. I think the thing here was that Obi-Wan doesn't have a car.
Uber.
Right?
That's true.
Uber.
So he would need a car ride
over James.
Yeah.
Yes, James.
You need a car ride to get to Anchorhead.
He's asking me questions. I'm answering them.
No, I'm talking out loud. The process that it would have to be. Anyway.
He's doing that ask himself a question thing.
No, I get it. He's saying like if he needed to get to Anchorhead, it's a logistical thing. Like, why wouldn't he just go there and then to Mos Eisley? Why did they just surpass Mos Eisley? Right.
I'll do further than Chicago. Like, if my friend was like, let's go to LA, I'd be like, I can drive you to the airport, but I'm not going to LA. But
all right, so let me break this down.
If something happened, I would still be going to the airport, and then I'd still be going to LA.
As a kid, he probably is only allowed to go to certain places. I don't think he's ever been to Mos Eisley. Obi-Wan makes that clear. He's like, that's Mos Eisley. You'll never find a more wretched hive of scum. I think Luke's probably only allowed to go so far. And he's like, I could take you as far as Anchorhead. That's the best I can do. Whereas now that his aunt and uncle are dead, no restrictions now. We're just going to go all the way to Mos Eisley. And we're going to sell my speeder. I think that's the difference.
Yeah, but it still could be going to Anchorhead. Anyway, doesn't really matter. John hates it when it's just like a point that he won't let go. Anyway,
I feel like you're the one not letting go. You're
not understanding what I'm saying. You're I
do understand what you're saying.
Trying to make it something different or something. But, Lacey, thoughts on Anchorhead being in the show?
I think it's a cool a callback to the original trilogy, and then I actually forgot that Boba Fett said that in Book of Boba Fett, so that's cool. Now that I've remembered it from the article and what people had posted online, it makes sense. I just, once again, love how they're connecting all these things together. I'm a huge Marvel fan, so I love when those things come up and you're doing the like Leonardo DiCaprio gif of pointing at the screen. Mm-hmm. So this is just another step that I'm like, this is so cool. There are certain aspects about Star Wars that I'm like, okay, I don't need to know that. But this is something that's one of those things that's like, yes, I would like to see Anchorhead. I would like to see more locations in Star Wars. And I think as Star Wars fans, we're constantly asking for that. Like, not just sand planet locations, though. Like, outside of that, which I think we're going to get in this show and in Andor. But definitely new locations on Tatooine alone would be really cool. So I'm excited to see what this place looks like, what happens there. Anything new Star Wars, just kind of growing beyond. We are what we grow beyond.
Yeah.
I'm also curious if that tower in the center is like the top of an anchor. Is that kind of maybe like where the name comes from? And then like the main part of the anchor is the bottom of the city?
Yeah, maybe.
It comes up to a tower kind of thing. It also
I could
kind of
see a
reminds me of
concept artist person doing that.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me a little bit of the Rebels tower outside of on Lothal, like outside of the city.
We were told that the designers of this had no restrictions, like they were given free range to make whatever they wanted for Anchorman.
For the
which
whole
is kinda
show
cool.
or just Anchorhead?
For Anchorman. I just said Anchorman. For Anchorhead.
You're saying for the whole show or just for this location?
I'm Star Wars.
Oh yeah, just for this. Yeah, as far as I understand it.
Well, cool. Well, we look forward to Anchorhead showing up, and hopefully it's like an exciting city scape inside of Tatooine that we've never seen before, so still being kind of new and fresh. Let's move on to the next story here. Damon Lindelof is reportedly developing a Star Wars movie. Now, this is kind of tricky. So, Jeff Snyder, who used to write for Collider, now has a new position, a new thing. He kind of put this story a little bit behind the paywall of this site called The Ankler. But his headline is that Damon Lindelof, who is the creator of Watchmen and co-creator of Lost and The Leftovers, is going to be working on a Star Wars movie. And if you look at this guy's career, he's up and coming, doing very well. There's lots of stuff that could point to him doing very well for Star Wars. So it's kind of a trade story. It's a little bit of a rumor. He's got a pretty good track record, Jeff Snyder, as far as like his breaks. That's kind of his thing. He, does this for a lot of big companies. So maybe there's some trust in that. But John, what are your thoughts on this story? But then let's assume it's true and David coming to Star Wars. Damon, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I don't know. I can't remember any situations where Jeff Snyder like wore egg on his face over a story. He's usually pretty good, and he has a lot of connections as far as I understand it. So, I mean, that I just laughed at the beginning because how many times have we been doing one of these stories where someone's making a Star Wars movie, and then you look at the calendar and it's still untitled Star Wars movie in 2025.
Yeah.
So I don't know where all these Star Wars movies are coming in because there's a bunch that were reported in this way that we haven't heard from really since. Like J.D. Dillard was doing a Star Wars movie, and Feige's still doing one. Tyke is doing one. Patty Jenkins, and there's still only 3 on the schedule. So we'll see. I was late to Lost. I watched it last year, but I really loved it. I really enjoyed that show a lot. Huh?
No spoilers.
Seriously?
I've never seen it.
I mean, it came out like 15 years ago.
No spoilers,
If somebody
John.
would have spoiled it 14 years after it came out, John, you would have been mad because you wouldn't have been able to watch it last year.
Thanks, James.
But if you watch
watch it.
watch the movie This Is 40 and they spoil Lost in that movie. I mean, it's just like it's a thing. Whatever. Anyway, back to the real point. He made a great television show with J.J. Abrams. He was the showrunner for it. Because JJ really just co-created the concept and directed the first 2 episodes and then sort of handed it off. And he sort of ran with it and it became one of the more successful shows of that time period. Watchmen, I watched some of. I know that got rave reviews, and I think that's probably more the bigger piece here as to what got him this.
James watched it.
Oh, yeah.
Huh?
Twice.
James watched it.
Oh, okay. Did you really liked it? You watched it twice, obviously. So.
I freaking loved it. Yeah. I thought it was so good and so much fun from being a Watchmen fan, like the way that they bring the comic, but maybe the movie, to like, it's all mixed together in a very like wink Watchmen way. I thought they did like an exceptional job. And it's one of those things where I think my understanding of it is they're like, that's it. That's the series. It's done. I'm not making a season 2. And everybody would be like, please come back for a season 2. And it's like, nope, it's perfect. We're not touching it. It is what it is. We're walking away.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think another part of this that does make it interesting for someone like him is that, earlier in his run doing the Star Trek reboot, producing and writing, however, uncredited with J.J. Abrams, that's a big undertaking because I think that was pretty well received, and that was a reboot of something that meant, or not, well, it's a loose reboot. It was like a prequel reboot, whatever, but it's something that means a lot to a lot of people the way Star Wars does, and it was received pretty well. So that's another, check on his resume. Like, can you tackle something that is a big IP that's been done for decades and still make something that people like? And he did. So he's able to do new stuff. He's able to do rehash, reboot. And he has a really extensive and long resume. And it seemed like most people took to the news pretty well from what I saw. A lot of people bring up Watchmen being, the recency effect. That was the most recent thing he had done. And I see, he did a movie called The Hunt, which I didn't see a year after. But other than that, Watchmen was the last big thing he did. So it'll be curious to see what comes of it. It would be nice to get, like we've said on the State of Star Wars, more official, announcements and details on all these sort of, so to speak, rumored movies. But I like what he's done, and so have you, James. So I'll just leave it there on my thoughts. If he makes a movie, I'm sure it'll be done well. You gotta, with these things, like I just would like to know more. Like, is it Old Republic? Is it a after Episode 9 thing? Is it, that sort of thing.
Same question to you, Lacey. Like, what are your thoughts on the story existing? This person do you think it's likely this person would be involved? And then, like, a side note, like, if they are, let's just pretend they are. Thoughts on them being part of Star Wars?
So I'm going to be honest, I don't know a lot of his stuff. I didn't really get into Lost, but I know based on how people reacted to it and how many awards and stuff his TV series have been nominated for, that obviously he knows what he's doing. And he works with J.J. Abrams, and I love J.J. Abrams, so I feel like people that are similar kind of hang out, like, story-wise. Looking at his photo right now, by the way, he totally looks like he could be J.J. Abrams' brother. Like, they could be boys together with the same glasses and everything, which kind of makes
it... It's like if J.J. Abrams suddenly just somehow became David Cross.
Yes, they had a kid, yes.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of funny because, I mean, people that are friends usually or work together usually are similar in the way that, like, if they keep working on the same project, you just kind of meld together. So looking at his picture, I'm like, maybe he's gone to JJ. Maybe he's like, anyway. I trust any decision that he's going to make based on what people have said about his projects and how they're critically acclaimed. And like I said, because he's tied to JJ, I'm all for it. I would bet that there's a lot of people that are trying to pitch Star Wars movies. I mean, if we go back to Zack Snyder, his Rebel Moon movie is coming out soon. That was a project that was pitched to Lucasfilm that they were like, nah, dog, we're good. And so then he was like, yo, Netflix, you want this movie? And so everyone knows that was the Star Wars movie he was pitching, which is crazy to me.
And if it's good,
I know.
Boy, are they going to see it. They're going to hear it.
They're never going to hear the end of it. But it's just interesting to me because I just wonder, outside of Damon, what other names have tried to throw their name in the ring or tried to pitch on stories outside of Jon Favreau that didn't get projects or were told no outside of Zack Snyder? Because I'm going to be honest, I'm not the biggest Zack Snyder fan. I've said that before. His Rebel Moon project looks amazing, and I'm definitely going to check it out. But he's not someone I would have picked to do a Star Wars movie. But sometimes that's the choice that you need. Like, I wouldn't have picked Rian Johnson either, but his movie was great. So I think that I'm just very interested in what names have been thrown around or what names that we don't even know happened. And then could you imagine, like, the name of the person that you really like, James, you love the guy that did Dune and Blade Runner. I always mess up his name.
Oh, Denis Villeneuve.
Yeah, you really like him. Like, imagine if he had a pitch meeting and you're like, oh my God, that movie would have been amazing. And it just didn't happen. It's just kind of like,
yeah,
it goes into the lost, like, the lost box of, like, mystery box J.J. Abrams of Lucasfilm. Like, I think they're taking his whole thing a little too far. And we talked about this on Patreon about, secrecy in Lucasfilm. We talk about it a lot, but we went into extensive details about how we thought about it. But yeah, I don't know. What do you think, James? Because you obviously liked Watchmen.
Yeah, this is all over the place. I feel like I have so much to say. Even as much as Denis Villeneuve, like, please, when you're done with Dune, Akira. Do Akira. I want it. You're the one. You're the one to do it. Anyway. So there's a lot to say on this. Like, he's got Lost, and I don't know how heavily involved in that because I think that's kind of like a JJ fronted thing, but, well received. Some of this other stuff I'm not entirely familiar with, but Watchmen to me, and the same as Star Trek, shows that he's like, okay, this is beloved. This is something that needs to kind of be updated, or we would like to create new IP out of this. How do we turn it into something that's relevant today? And does it very successfully. And then you have something like Tomorrowland, which was the same idea. But
oh
then,
my
like,
gosh, that was his movie?
hard fail.
It was
you know?
so bad, and the concept was so good.
Yeah, I've not seen it, but it was one of those things that it looks here like kind of similar to this other stuff. Even Prometheus, to some degree, was like, okay, we have this property. It's Alien. It's really good. You know, how are we going to rebrand it, reinvigorate it, make it a new thing? And similar to the Into Darkness they did with the Prometheus, they were like, it's not an Alien movie. You know, it was like a J.J. Abrams move. That's not Khan. You know, they
I
played
totally
in a
forgot
lot
he
with
did
that.
Tomorrowland, because if I had known, I would have brought that up. I forgot, because that movie was a perfect example of a hype train that everybody was on that didn't deliver. The trailer was awesome. George Clooney was involved. It looked really, really cool. And then I saw it and I was like, this movie is terrible.
Yeah, so
and
I mean, he
I
wasn't
felt
the
like they had
director.
plans for other things. Yeah.
He was part of a team that wrote it.
Yeah.
So
the concept was cool. It just did not.
yeah, it's one of
Couldn't
those
be
things.
saved by Michael Giacchino either.
Did he do the music? I mean, Brad
Yeah.
Bird, again, to connect with Michael, it's like the Incredibles, like one of the best like superhero movies. People say, you know, it's like that obviously worked, but sometimes it just doesn't. You know, they get the formula together, and
It's just crazy, because I remember they showed they had a panel at New York Comic Con, because George Clooney showed up and he was on his honeymoon and he still came to New York Comic Con. So it was like a big deal, especially because he did, it was the first panel he had done since Batman ever at a Comic Con. And he made a joke like, I haven't been invited to Comic Con because of bat nipples. He's like, no one ever invites me to Comic Con. It was really funny.
Wow.
But yeah, no, it was a perfect example of like, I think even Damon came to that panel of just like overhype, and you get there and you're like, oh, this isn't what I thought it was. So I would hope he still delivers, I guess my comment would be, but it seems like he is delivering on his newer stuff.
So, I mean, I don't know. I think it's one of those things, Lacey, you kind of, I think, put it the best. I think there's like normal movies have pitch meetings that don't go anywhere. And normal movies have like, when they do land their person, then they say, you're the person, start working on it. I feel like Lucasfilm has like an in-between where they're like, you're not the person, but start working on it. And that's what we hear.
my God.
And then they take like 5, like, because it's kind of a dream job for anybody, unless you're afraid of the bad press or something. Like, they probably have the ability to kind of say, yes, start working on it, put it together, we'll pay you a certain amount or whatever, but then ultimately we'll decide later once it's like further into production or something. I don't know. Maybe that's where we're getting the J.D. Willards and stuff like that. Because I don't think those people are like officially doing anything, but they may have at some point actually been working on something, which in some ways kind of leads to our next story, because we have that we have this story that we kind of want to talk about where, you know, Hollywood Reporter was saying in the Kenobi movie or early versions of the show, Maul was involved as the antagonist, and it got reworked, and at some point you know, people were on call, like, you know, it was like, it seemed like it was active development was the process of going into this. And then the interesting part of the story is that not only has Lucasfilm come out or people who work at Lucasfilm has come out and said absolutely none of that's true, but even Hollywood Reporter's own connection, their source was like, that's not true, but they still went with the story because they felt like, I guess, of course they're going to deny it, but we know this is true because we have other sources that says so. John, I'm gonna throw it to you on this one. You know, what are your thoughts on Maul possibly have been involved in the Kenobi thing at some point, and Ray Park too?
Yeah. So when we first broke the news on the Kenobi series in February of 2019, part of what we were told was that they were going to announce a Kenobi movie shortly after Solo's box office run. And that's why Ewan McGregor was there at the premiere for Solo. Or maybe, I mean, he could have just said, can I go see it too? That's completely fair.
I I think he was there for a reason.
Yeah, well, I'll let you get to the other part of that. But I mean, these things are weird, man. Like the Kenobi series went through several different writers, Hossein Amini, now Joby Harold being the last one here. And it's who's to say if it's an Empire Strikes Back situation where you had like your Lee Brackett script and George Lucas's story and Larry Kazan came in and made sense of it and made it, human and helped the dialogue and stuff, or if it's crumple that up, throw that in the wastebasket, let's try this again. Because I had heard a while back, I think we had talked about, like, we had heard something about how there were concerns. I think, remember like a year or two ago, there were concerns about Kenobi, and they're like, Kenobi's on delayed or on hiatus or something.
It's getting rewrites, and Ewan McGregor got asked about it, and he said something along the lines of like, that's normal. It's normal for things to get rewrites. So I think it's and part of that story back then was saying the story was too similar to The Mandalorian because it was the guy and the kid. Remember that? Mm-hmm. It was the guy and the kid, and they were like, well, now we have Mando and Grogu, desert planets, a lot going, and I think maybe the original thing was Obi-Wan, Luke, Maul. And that was like going to be the thing. And the big climax was he was going to fight Darth Maul again and stuff. And, and as well as, a lot of people who watched Rebels understand that wouldn't make sense because of what Kenobi was saying. He thought either Obi-Wan was dead or he, he didn't know where he was. And when he finally encounters him, that seems very clear that they hadn't seen each other since. But they shift this stuff around all the time, right? So, I mean, look at the books compared to the movies where, Rey meets Poe in the end of the Force Awakens novel, and then they meet for the first time in the movie at the very end of The Last Jedi. And both are supposed to be canon. So who the heck knows? But and then, Pablo Hidalgo takes to his private Twitter account, and, if you have 1,000 followers or whatever, someone who is going to be like, oh, that's interesting. Bang, send that off to whoever. We got a hold of it somehow, and it was very interesting that he took to his private account to say like, oh, this is complete BS, but he didn't take it to his like public account that he uses to talk about Star Wars. But he's always quick to say stuff, and I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily. But then on the other hand, he's like, well, I have no idea, I'm not involved. So it's like, oh, well, you are a creative executive, so you definitely know what's going on. So you got to take him at his word that what was being reported is inaccurate. And like you said, James, and we put it in the article too, even THR, like, it's a very, very weird report from a big Hollywood trade. Yeah. Because they even said, like, our own Lucasfilm source said it's not true, but we have these other sources. And then you start thinking, like, I was talking to somebody and they're like, what if it was just like, Ray Park was just like drunk and he called the Hollywood Reporter and he's like, let me tell you the truth about the Kenobi series. They're like, oh, go on, please. He's like, oh, yes, I was training for 6 months. It was going to be grand. And they're like, oh, this is good. And then they call Lucasfilm. They're like, that's not true. They're like, run it.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, honestly, like, for crazy theories, that sounds pretty normal. If you were supposed to be in it and you were training and you were getting ready and you went to the solo premiere and you were with Kenobi and you were like, we're going to do this. And then they just said like, we changed it. It's going to be Hayden now. You're like, oh, what?
And that's the craziest thing too, because they're saying Vader wasn't even like in it. Right. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting when the series comes out, how it's received. I'm very confident in it for a lot of reasons. Nothing like that I know that other people don't, just as a fan. I'm very confident in this.
And let's be clear,
show.
What we just presented was fake. Like
hypothetical.
Yeah. We don't know that. That's not part of the story. We're not assuming that.
No. The part of the story is just simply that
it's like, I don't know.
One of your more trusted major Hollywood trades put out a story saying Maul was supposed to be the main antagonist of the Kenobi series, and trickling down from the Kenobi movie that was supposed to be made, and it just got completely reworked. And Filoni allegedly was pushing for Vader and Inquisitors, and they took Maul out, and it's like, well, is it because of, Ray Park got in trouble? And there's a lot of different things you could point to. I think this is one of those things where there might be some truth to this, but not as aggressively as they are putting it, where it was like, we got to stop it and pull him completely out. Like, I think maybe at some point there were ideas of Maul being involved, and they shifted the story around. Because look, there's been big changes to a lot of the Star Wars movies. You know, Rogue One didn't have Vader the way it did, and you know, Solo had completely different directors, and The Force Awakens started with Luke's hand in the atmosphere burning and his lightsaber crashing into the sands. A lot of stuff changes. So maybe Maul was a little bit a part of it. And maybe Pablo was just responding to how heavy they made this story to be, that it sounds like there was this major change. The only thing I find the one thing I find the most interesting that we're always wondering about with Lucasfilm is sort of like the true creative hierarchy.
Sure.
Because the way they pitched this story was Favreau and Filoni, like Deborah Chow went to Favreau and Filoni, which that would make sense to me because they gave her, you know, episodes to do for Mandalorian. She trusts them because it was such a success. Her episodes were received really well. And she showed them the scripts and they were like, go big. And I'm not going to say that's what happened, but I could see that happening. And then Kathleen Kennedy like signs off on it. So it's just, I don't know. It's a very interesting story to me. I can't imagine the Hollywood Reporter completely swinging and missing on this. So I think there's like some sprinkles of truth here, but I don't think it's as much as it was taken or positioned.
Lacey, so there's a lot to talk about. What do you think?
I think that this story is coming from a truth. I don't think that an outlet like The Hollywood Reporter would put a story out like this knowing that they would annoy Lucasfilm and Disney. I don't think that they would want that. I think that they would run it knowing, hey, we have multiple sources and or a very good source, and we believe in this story. And I think that oftentimes when you have publicists or Lucasfilm people or any studio really that immediately say no, that's because there is some truth to it. I think if they're quick to say no, then usually it's like, we need to stop this right now. We need to can this. Whereas if they don't say anything at all, it's like, no comment. I'm not even going to spend time on this type thing. But I just think, you know, John brought it up, but we were talking about this kind of in our own chat. It's just weird to me that if you look at Solo and the way that it ends with Darth Maul as the big reveal at the end of Solo, he was at the premiere. Ewan McGregor was at the premiere of Solo, and he walked by the red carpet, did not talk to anybody, and it was a surprise that he was there. Oh my gosh, he's there. And he sat next to Ray Park in the movie, and then Ray Park talked about it on the Star Wars show of, yeah, Ewan sat next to me, and I was excited to see his reaction to my appearance, and he was like, oh man, that's so awesome. To me, it sounds like they were working together, or they were involved in a project together, because why would they be sitting next to each other? Like, you're telling me out of everyone that's there, Ewan's like, I gotta sit next to Ray Park. Got to. With every single person that's there.
Well, and at premieres, you get an assigned seat. It's not...
Right, but I'm saying that's the seat they gave him, is next to Ray Park.
Yeah. Imagine if it was just like, hey, can I sit here? And he's like, no, seat's taken.
It just seems a little suspicious to me, and I think that there probably was some use of Maul. I mean, we've talked about this on the show about how Maul has had all these stories. It's like him and Ahsoka have had so much story time within animation and then live action now, like all these kind of different threads that they've gone on as characters, which is kind of cool. But I think that this was a true story. I don't know to the extent that it was true. Like, was it really like, oh, we ought to pull him? Maybe. I mean, we all know that he got into some shenanigans last year online and posting inappropriate things. So Disney might have said, hey, pull it. He's not getting involved. Because last year was when we heard those things about rewrites. It literally could have been something like that. Because a company like Disney, if you say the wrong thing, look at Gina Carano, you're out. So if you're posting inappropriate photos online and you're one of the bigger characters in a new project's coming out, and it's a project like Obi-Wan Kenobi where you need it to be good and it is a fan favorite character, you're not going to let that ride on someone that's causing issues. Nowadays, I feel like oftentimes people get in trouble for doing stupid stuff online because they don't realize the ramifications of said posting. And I think now more than ever, companies are way more cautious on what people are posting. Now, I'm not saying that what Ray Park posted was okay or anything that he did online was okay. I'm just saying that any type of level of something that's wrong, companies will pull back. So I think that there is kind of this level of, could it be? Yeah, maybe. Absolutely. But I definitely think Maul was involved, and I think that's why Ewan was at the premiere. I know Ewan loved Star Wars, or loves it, and he's talked about how his relationship with the prequels was difficult because it was so negative. Why would he be at the premiere for Solo? He's not in Solo. Doesn't he have something better to do, in the sense of like, hey, don't you have like a date with your wife, or like have something?
Celebrities go to premieres. You know what I mean?
I'm just saying him in particular. Like you didn't see him at The Force Awakens. You didn't see him at Rogue One, but you see him at Solo, where Maul is in it. That's all.
Yeah, I think you guys have a lot of good points. Especially it's like when I'm thinking about who is Obi-Wan's like ultimate rival. Like, you know, it's like a lot of people will point to Maul, and I could see that being the thread, especially when they maybe don't want him and Vader to mix in. But, you know, maybe kick it up a notch. We'll replace Maul. We still kind of have a similar story. What?
I'm actually happier they went with Vader. I want to make that clear. I think that that's the cooler story for me, especially after Rogue One, to see more Vader. So I'm happy they made that choice, they did make that choice.
So I think they made the right move now, but had they not done the thing in Rebels and had Solo been like better received, like if it got there's like the same rollout as Rogue One did and everybody was like, wow, that was a great movie, I think this would have been a better story.
Oh, cool.
It would have been
okay.
Maul and Kenobi refacing, and Kenobi like finally ending Maul, you know, at that point, or so, although that wouldn't have lined up with Rebels at all, you know, but I don't know.
They would have made it work.
They would have made it work, yeah, but I'm just saying, had they not done that in Rebels, then this live action face-to-face with those two would have been, and John said that for a very long time, so I know his opinion lies there too, right?
The Rebels thing, like, it doesn't always have to be one or the other. Like, the Rebels thing is really cool, and if you like listen to like Dave Filoni talk about it, or even like the voice actors, you know, Stephen Stanton, Taylor Gray when he talked about it, and Sam Witwer, it's short and it's like almost like, oh my god, that was it. But then as you sort of understand more about it, it is really cool how it was done. So you can like that, but also say like, man, imagine like 20 plus years later, we see Ewan McGregor and Ray Park go at it again. That would be freaking amazing.
I mean, if fans didn't know either way, right? And you told them, like,
and you hear Duel of the Fates, and you're just like, oh my.
I mean, look at my reaction just seeing it on screen without Maul there.
Yeah. Like, you have a choice. In 3 years from now, we can either tell the story of Obi-Wan and Maul, and it'll be done really well, but it'll be in like this animated show, you know, or whatever. Or we could do a 6-part series that's live action. Ewan McGregor comes back. You know, it's like, no, it's a no-brainer. I feel like everybody would be like, do that one, you know? And I mean, it's fine. Like, I love the Rebels thing, and I love the way that they did it. But that's one of those things. Like, I think, given the situation, that probably would have they would have preferred to do that. So I think at some point this probably was in play. And similar to what I was saying before, as far as like, I think some people are like kind of involved in it, and they're like, hey, we want to get you involved and we'll pay you to this certain point. Don't say anything. We still have the right to change our mind, you know? So I could understand people being involved and working on it and other stuff like that. And then
it could,
it gets changed.
It could have been as simple as like, because it's obvious from Solo and the seeds they planted and what we saw what happened with Kira, that they traffic kids, like orphans, and rope them in. And once you're in Crimson Dawn, you're in it for life. Like Dryden Voss said. So what if the story for that movie version of Kenobi was that Maul, Crimson Dawn, was going to try to take this kid, Luke, and Obi-Wan stands in between them, like like Logan sort of thing. It probably would have been cool. But then we look over here at what they're doing now, and it's like, that looks pretty cool too. It's like when you're at a really good restaurant and you're like, I haven't been here in a while. I love their lobster mac and cheese, but man, that filet mignon looks really good too.
Who would ever turn down a filet for lobster mac and cheese?
Well, that's, I think, John's point, is that I really like their lobster mac and cheese, but...
I know, I'm making fun of him for saying that that's better than a filet.
Yeah.
I didn't say it was better.
Get it.
Yeah, he said he would choose.
I didn't choose yet. I didn't even choose yet. Can I choose my meal first? No, but you see what I'm saying? So that would have been cool, but then it's like, oh, what they're doing is also really cool. So it's kind of like how me with Kurt Russell, I'm like, Kurt Russell probably would have been an awesome Han Solo, but got Harrison Ford, awesome Han Solo.
So I don't know. I guess if you guys want to contribute to the show, put it in the comments if you're watching on YouTube. What your thoughts on this story were, and if you would have preferred it rolled out the exact way that it did. Maybe you're not as big of a fan of Solo, so you're like, well, I'm glad that's over here. And I really like that they're bringing back Vader. That means a lot more to me, or something. Whatever your opinion is, throw it in the comments, and we'll be sure to see it. Couple other things before we end up Resistance Report. We just wanted to mention kind of an interesting thing with the Star Wars comics. So Star Wars number 25 is coming out, and it's going to kind of be a bigger issue, or a more interesting issue, because it's Charles Soule's, like, it's Star Wars 25, which is, kind of important in itself, but it's also Charles Soule's 100th issue that he's written and worked on. So he's doing this thing where he's kind of putting a bunch of different stuff all together, because he's worked through the years, he's done Poe Dameron, and he's done Vader and all these other things. So he's done the Kylo Ren series. So he's kind of doing an untold stories thing where you're going to get to see a lot of different characters all involved. But if you want to read more about that and a bunch of other upcoming Star Wars comics, go over to Star Wars Newsnet, because we're always covering what's upcoming and reviews and all that stuff when it comes to the books and the comics and things like that. There's a lot of stuff, including the Mandalorian, and there's some stuff on Darth Vader and how somebody knows who he is, and it's pretty wild if you are looking into the comics. And one other thing, this is kind of a quick thing too, and I don't know, John, you can tell me if we're actually doing the spoiler here, but there is a story out there that says a character that was in Mandalorian Season 2 is in fact going to be back in Season 3, as we have set photos of that character. And if you put together what the other actors and actresses have said about that character and why they were missing, you can kind of piece together there was probably more to the story. So that person is in fact coming back. Should I spoil it?
No, I wouldn't.
If you guys want to know, that's where you got to go down in the description. Go over to Star Wars Newsnet, read the story, and see if you are right. Maybe make a guess right now, and then go see if you know who we're talking about.
When I saw it, I was like, oh, all right.
Yeah. It's definitely one of those things. I don't think many of this wasn't exclusive, but any of this stuff is ever really here's the plot, Yeah. We don't report that stuff generally. So, I mean,
it's just Billy D. Williams as Lando Calrissian, de-aged, showing up in The Mandalorian.
It's not a big deal. We've already
with
seen
a young
him.
Babu Frick.
They're both joking. That's not actually happening to our audio listeners that can't see facial cues.
What if they
Lacey, I think they understand
Billy
tone.
D and it was Donald
I trust
Glover?
our audience. Yeah.
They de-age Billy D.
Just in case anyone thought I was serious.
Yeah,
de-age Billy D is not with Babu Frick in The Mandalorian Season 3.
But wouldn't that be funny if they got Billy D and then they de-aged him and it just looked like Donald Glover?
It looked exactly like him.
Yeah, they put his face on.
It would be funnier if John, recorded one of these episodes and said something like that, and then we logged off, and then that was a headline somewhere as soon as we.
Oh, yeah.
Oh no. Maybe they de-age Billy D. Williams and he looks exactly like Sebastian Stan.
Oh yeah,
And then he
that
can
makes
play
sense.
a young Luke Skywalker. Yeah.
Or like a mix between Sebastian Stan and Millie Bobby Brown.
Perfect. Yeah.
And Steve Buscemi.
Well, of course. Yeah.
All right, that's it for Resistance Report. Lacey, take us into our next section. What are we doing?
All right, guys, it's time for the Patreon pod race. So there are lots of ways you can support us. You can like this video, comment, subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter at RBATSWNN. Follow us on Instagram at The Resistance Broadcast, or on any of the audio platforms like Spotify, where you can leave us a rating, which we appreciate it. Thank you so much. But if you want more than that, including bonus episodes, Discord server, merch, and much more, you can head over to patreon.com/resistance broadcast. Starting at $2 a month, you support the show and what we're doing here and all the stuff that's coming up this year, which is potentially the biggest year in Star Wars. And you say, hey, I like what you're doing, I'm going to support you. So thank you so much. This is the part of the show that we let our generals and spice runners take part. We ask them a question, they give us an answer, and then we kind of respond to it. But before that, I'm going to thank those people. So first up, thank you to our generals: Carmelo, Jeremy Myers, John Reese, Jetta Rosewater, Paul Olson, Oliver Lewis, Frank Grande, Darth Hurricane, John Chorlton, Nick Kratz, Christian Morales, Brian Smith, Matt Chitty, Danny, Mike Ramori, Matt Heath, Double C Chris, Chris White, and Val Trichkoff. Thank you guys so much. And to our spicy spice runners, we have David Probus, Neil Shaw, Kendall Gelner, Ryan Wara, Dave Hornack, Micah Harrison, Thomas Hennessy, and Andrew Staley. Thank you guys so much for being a part of the Resistance and for supporting us. This week we have one of our OG generals, one of our first supporters on Patreon. That would be Melo in España.
Yeah. The lowest of the G's.
Yeah. So we asked him, how does your excitement for the Obi-Wan Kenobi series stack up against your excitement leading into other Star Wars films and shows that have come out since and including The Force Awakens? So Melo, take it away.
Hello guys, and greetings from Torino. Behind us, as you can see, is Juventus Stadium, and today we're going to a Champions League. I'm here with Alessandro. And we're pretty excited. This is a big deal for us, and we're going to take some time off to talk about Obi-Wan. How excited are we?
Yeah, we are very excited.
Yes, this is going to be really good for us because in reality, Obi-Wan is one of our favorite characters. And it's, in comparison to other Disney shows, don't take this personal, but this is pretty much the highest thing that we can expect. We love the Force in the house, and this is very exciting to see a Jedi-centric thing. Well, this is all we have. We're ready to go to the stadium. For all soccer fans out there, they know how it's a big deal, so we're really happy. And well, guys, it was really awesome talking to you, and Viva la Resistance.
Nicely done, Melo. Thank you so much for your answer. We miss you, bud. It's good to see your face. John, what did you think?
I like how Alessandro did like the pop-up video thing where you're just like, here I am. That's what I have to say. I'm back. So good job, fellas. I'm not a big soccer fan, but it looks like that was a big deal. So I am acknowledging that, Melo. Miss you, buddy, but it's good to see you here. Yeah, I wasn't sure where you would be on this. I know, I really wasn't sure if I recalled how you felt about like Mando and stuff like that, but I know you like Jedi stuff. So it seems like you are on the hype train for Kenobi. So I'm curious like where you're at with stuff like Andor then, where they may also not be Jedi and that sort of thing. Because you definitely seem to lean heavily more on the Force stuff. So, but this one should be bread and butter for you. So it sounds like you are pretty much as hyped for this as anything, which is awesome. It's always a good feeling. So, and it looks like you're passing that on to your sons too. So very cool. Good to see you, buddy. And yeah, the lowest of the G's. You've been supporting our Patreon since like day one, man. And can't thank you enough. And I hope we get to hang out again soon. I'm not sure if you're making it to Celebration.
He is going to Celebration.
He is?
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't positive on that. All right, awesome, man. So we'll see you soon then, hopefully. And may the Force be with you, buddy. And Alessandro.
James?
Yeah, crazy, man. Good answer. I know that you love that stuff, so it wasn't really a surprise when you're like, yeah, I'm all about Kenobi. Let's go. I love seeing the soccer stuff too, and everybody in the family like popping in. That's great. Yeah, I don't know what to say, man. Here's another thing. It doesn't even have to do with your pod race, man, but we were talking about how you're one of the originals, man. Dude, you're awesome. Just I'm so glad you're like still here and still kicking around. I don't know if I've told you before, but like I literally like, you know, we have a lot of patrons and I see the emails come in when we get new ones and stuff. We're always really excited. But you being our first, I really vividly remember getting that email and be like, I can't believe someone joined at, you know, this tier. They want to be our general. This is nuts. Who is this? You know? It
was like when Ghostbusters got their first call. I was like,
yes, exactly. Yeah. It was 100% that. And it was so impactful in those characters' lives that they put it in the movie. So, you know, so if there was a movie about us, you best believe we're going to be excited when we got our first general. But yeah.
Who would play us in a movie? That's a good question.
I don't know. Ryan Reynolds probably for me. Nah. All right. Yeah. Thanks
Bradley
a lot.
Cooper for me.
See you.
Those are both terrible choices. That's like me being like, I don't know, Charlize Theron for me. Like it makes
wait,
no
hold on. Now.
sense.
What are you saying? Were you saying we're ugly? What does that mean?
No, I'm
Terrible
saying
choices.
it doesn't match your personality types.
Although, then again, Charlize Theron, that's a pretty good choice.
Shut
Write
up.
that down.
All right, so Bradley Cooper's looks with like Robin Williams' sense of humor, and
You're
then
just mishmashing it.
Johnny Knoxville's ability to do stunts.
No. If we did a movie, John would be played by Bill Murray with like Bill Murray with a hat on. That would be
Bill
John's.
Murray. Bill Murray's 75 years old.
Yeah, well, we did.
You got gray hair.
Hey, we didn't say this wasn't like. We didn't say this wasn't like years in the future.
No, I
like
think right now it would be hilarious if we were both younger characters and then John was just played by Bill Murray now with the hat on. You have the same mannerisms. Every time I watch Bill Murray in a movie, I'm like,
listeners,
that's John.
We need a Photoshop.
Of Bill Murray and John. I don't know why you're taking offense to that. Bill Murray's awesome.
Well, he's 87 years old.
But I'm picking him not
Happy birthday, Bill.
Based on age or looks. I'm picking him based on personality and mannerisms.
And the fact that we just made a Ghostbusters reference.
Dana,
Correct.
are these the eggs?
All right, Melo, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Again, you're so awesome. And I can't wait to hang out at Celebration. It's going to be so much fun. It seems like we haven't seen you in forever because it has been forever because all of us feel that we've lost like 2 years of our life in the vast craziness of the pandemic and whatnot. So thank you so much. It's great to see you and your family are doing well, and we can't wait to see you again. Back to John.
All right, so we have a couple of minutes. So I know Lacey had a chance to take a look at the Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga, which comes out in a couple weeks.
April 5th.
So, yeah. So almost 2 weeks on the button. I'm
Correct.
Like a genius. Yeah. Maybe Albert Einstein would play me in a movie. I don't know.
Still an old guy, so I guess I'm still...
Hey, did you say Albert Einstein would play you in the movie?
James looks disgusted.
Albert Einstein? What were you doing?
'Cause he's smart, like me.
Oh, okay.
No, so the game is coming out in 2 weeks. I am very excited about it. So Lacey, why don't you get us more excited about it? What are some things that you learned from that, and I know you put, you put out the review for it, and but what are some things you could tell our listeners that they may haven't seen in like the trailers or like the hype videos that you think would make them be like, oh, this is a Star Wars game I gotta get?
So I want to preface this with anybody that doesn't want spoilers about the game, maybe you should jump off now. It's been fun. Have a good day. Because I am going to mention a couple things.
Isn't the spoiler this, like, if you watch the Skywalker Saga, though? Isn't that like a spoiler?
Well, like things about the game, like if people want to go in fresh and they don't want to be told stuff. So I got about an hour preview of the game from TT Games, which is the studio that works with Lego and Lucasfilm to create those Lego games. We got a walkthrough with Mike Consalvi, the designer who is the level director for the game. And their big thing was that attention to detail was very important to them. They wanted to make sure that this game was a fan favorite for years to come. They want you playing this game forever. You know, they don't want you to pick it up and put it down. Like, I'll even admit Battlefront, like I played it like crazy for a long time. And then I finally was like, oh, this is kind of old. There's so many cool things about this game, guys, that you could keep playing it and do a different thing every time. So first of all, they have over 300 playable characters, which is more than any of the other games that they've done before. There's a new camera perspective that brings you closer to the action, and every detail within the game is made from Legos. So I think in previous games, they've had kind of Lego pieces and elements here and there. Every single piece in this game is made from a Lego. And they really stressed that kind of detail, that they wanted you to feel like you were in a Lego set. They brought in a new combat type combo meter, so you can do kind of a little bit of a button mash situation, or
gotcha.
combos like Mortal Kombat, where you can do like certain buttons do certain moves for certain characters. They have play freedom, where you get to decide where you go and what to do. There's 3 challenges on each level, so the levels are each movie. So you have the prequels, the original trilogy, and then the sequels.
That's cool.
Yeah, so when you start up the game, you get to decide what movie you want to start with. And you could start anywhere at any time. It doesn't really matter. But you get to decide within the game, you know, there might be the level we saw was A New Hope with the Tantive 4. So Leia is hit with 3 different doors. One's on fire, one's shut, and one's blasted open or something. You get to decide which way you want to go. And based on that is what puzzles you get and what things you interact with, which is really cool. They also have a ton of the Lego humor you would expect. I found myself laughing a lot while watching him play through the game. They have one scene where, you know, C-3PO and R2-D2 are looking for the escape pod, and they're opening doors, and in each door there's like a stormtrooper having a shower. There's stormtroopers in a hot tub. Like, it's just silly stuff like that. And then when they do the evacuation pod, it's like a washing machine that they're in. And so when they land, they get out and like C-3PO has underwear stuck to him, like that kind of silly humor that you'd expect from Lego, which is really fun. And I wrote this quote down, which I really loved, which they said that the design team loves puns, alliteration, and clever wordplay. So expect plenty of this throughout the game. And one of the jokes that really stood out to me was on Tatooine, you're walking around, and at the time the game developer was playing as Qui-Gon Jinn, because you can switch characters in different movies. So you can play as Qui-Gon on Tatooine, you can play as Anakin in the sequel trilogy, which he did do. He played Anakin on Agent Kloss. But on Tatooine, he was walking around and he walked into a protocol droid, and the droid was like, oh, these type of Jawas, their droids are all free range. They don't believe in slavery or something. And it just made me laugh, because I was like, that's such a deep cut joke. It was really funny. But other than that, you can have different types of characters to play. You can be, you know, a Jedi. You can be a hero character, which is like Rebels. You can be a Sith. You can be a droid. You could be a protocol droid. So astromech versus protocol. You could be kind of like the villain side of things. Just basically, the thing I took away from this game is there's so many different combinations of things you can do between levels, challenges, different things to unlock. They have data cards that do special features. The feature they showed us at the end is called like Rave feature, and it makes the entire galaxy into a big dance party. And all the characters are dancing. All the planets are like flashing rave light. It was just the most fun I've had watching someone play a video game in a very long time. Like
It's the special edition version of Return of the Jedi.
Basically, yes, absolutely.
Did they say are the controls foreign to what people would be used to with the previous Lego games? Did they talk about that, like the gameplay, the actual?
So they said that the gameplay is pretty simple. They're expecting, I think, they didn't say this, but I'm expecting that they think kids are going to be playing this. You know, kids and people and families are going to be playing this. But
Can you play online?
You can't, but you can play co-op. So that was another thing. They have the ability that you can play with 2 people, or you can drop in, drop out gameplay. So say you're coming up on a big bad boss and someone can't beat them, but you can drop them out and go to a single player. Or you can team up as Obi-Wan and Anakin at the same time. But I think the thing that stands out to me was the customization and then the jokes. So like they went on to the Invisible Hand from, what's his name? General Grievous's ship, and they fly in, and there's these droids sitting there, and they're like, "Hey, Bill, congrats on your retirement," and they have a cake, and Anakin and Obi-Wan crash into them and like kill the droids, and there's cake everywhere, and then Anakin's eating cake. Like that kind of stuff is just funny to me.
Yeah, it is. That's
So
good.
I'm going to tell you the coolest thing about this game. That again, I don't want to spoil it, but I'm going to a little bit. You get to be a Rancor in this game.
Oh, really?
You get to be creatures and unlock creatures. So that's the other thing
really
is like
cool.
there's a lot of unlocking. So you can run through the levels and destroy stuff as a Rancor, which is really
That's
awesome.
Yeah. So, and is there anything? It's just the episodic, so no Rogue One, no Solo.
So they brought in elements of Rogue One. So like Leia says hope at the beginning of the A New Hope level, and they brought in Vader kind of smashing through the doorway like Rogue One, but no, this focuses on the Skywalker Saga.
Cool. All right. Well, sounds good. I've been excited
highly
about
recommend.
I've been, and we're not getting free copies or anything like that.
I didn't
so
get any free copies. I
Yeah.
just watched someone play it and talk about it.
we say when we like things, we say when we don't necessarily love things, and it sounds like you're really digging this. And I ever since I heard about it, I was interested because I like the simplicity of these games, and I don't like being stressed out when I play video games.
You're going to
There's a
love
lot of-
playing this, both of you, with your sons. Like Johnny and Bennett are going to love watching you guys play this. And I think one of the coolest things that kind of got me a little choked up was at the beginning, they play this kind of intro video, like a cutscene type video that goes into the main menu of start. When video games do that, they play the little intro. It was really well done, and it walks through like different, it uses lightsabers as the transition between characters of like Rey to Luke to Obi-Wan to Darth Maul and all this other stuff. And just they used a lot of emotional beats and moments from the movies, and the music is obviously a big point there. But yeah, it's
Montages,
really,
man.
I loved it. I loved every minute of watching this this guy play through. I wanted to keep watching.
Well,
Anytime
it sounds-
any fan or anything, whenever they do a montage of like, remember the saga, all of it, and they put like good John Williams over it, you're like, oh man, I can't hold back tears. Yeah.
Well, this game based around the Skywalker saga sounds superbly stupendous. So I'm really
We might have
excited
to do playthroughs for
check it out.
people because it's really fun.
Yeah, all right. I'm gonna become a Twitch
Streamer.
guy. Yeah,
You can ask our friend
I gotta
Andy
get a
Bain
purple
about
light
that.
behind me.
Yeah.
What?
You can ask Andy Bain about that.
Yeah,
Yes,
true.
so if you want to see the full review, head over to StarWarsNewsNet.com, where I walk through more of the details with game footage and screenshots and much more.
Great. Thank you, Lacey. And that's it. James, did you have anything you wanted to toss in here?
No, not particularly.
Did you finish your Shamrock Shake?
No. Oh yeah, pretty much. Just
He's
a
going to
little
hold it
bit
for
at the
another
end.
4 days, just
Yeah,
really
exactly. Yep.
keep it going.
How
Give
many
it the
Tamara
week
Morrisons
treatment.
would you give that Shamrock Shake?
Oh, probably easily 9 out of 10.
He better
10
say 9
pieces.
because his wife made it for him. He better
So
say
we'll
9.
find out if Rachel listens to TRB on Monday. All right. Well, we want to thank everybody for listening and watching and being a part of TRB. It means a lot. We're really getting ramped up with our planning for Star Wars Celebration. Now, we completely understand that actually most of our listeners will not be at Celebration, but we are going to be talking about it because we'll be covering it too. We'll be there doing streams and doing videos and doing reviews on things we see. So you'll be able to tune in to youtube.com/Star Wars Newsnet videos to watch our videos so that we can sort of bring you along with us in a sense. And then also, of course, StarWarsNewsNet.com will be covering what we experienced there. Actually, I just learned recently that Miguel is going to be at Celebration.
Yay!
And maybe some of the other crew from Star Wars Newsnet. So that's really cool because I haven't met a lot of these people face to face. So, but anyway, just for our listeners who probably feel bad they're not able to go to Celebration, I completely empathize and understand that. But we're going to do the best we can to not only have a great experience for the three of us, but also to try our best to bring you into it with us in a sense. So
Make sure to follow
stick with
our
us
social channels because we're definitely going to have daily giveaways with stuff that you can only get at Celebration, so you guys feel like you're there.
Yeah, and I have an idea I'm going to bring up to you guys, not on the episode, but you just made me think of something. All right. And then make sure you subscribe to the show. Like Lacey said, your preferred audio platforms as well, in addition to what we said on YouTube. You can find me on Twitter at Johnny Hoey, writing and editing at StarWarsNewsNet.com, and my movie podcast, Just Like the Movies. We're doing The Godfather tomorrow. So if you like that movie, check us out as we talk about that classic. James.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram, both at Myra Trunks.
Lacey.
People can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Lacey Gillerin, and I can't wait to be at Celebration.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Thursday, we are getting back into discussion mode. We had a wonderful time doing our Kessel run last week. We hope you enjoyed that one, by the way. If you haven't yet, we gave our list of top 12 Han Solo moments. But Thursday, back in the headlines, Samuel L. Jackson, Mace Windu. We're going to give our takes on that, dig deep into what's going on. So we'll see. Enjoy your weeks. Happy spring, everybody. We hope you're all well out there, and we'll see you Thursday morning right here on TRB. See you around, kids.